Welcome, Los Angeles people listening on KFWB News Talk 980 Los Angeles, our flagship station, or Extreme Talk XM Channel 165, or at the World Wide Web at cleanradio.com. Welcome, everybody, on the studio tonight with the amazing, talented Andrew Spanswick.
Hey, Judo. Welcome. How are you tonight?
I am great. How are you?
Good. I just got back from New York, New York City.
And let's give your father, who's really struggling a little bit with...
Yeah, he has multiple myeloma, form of blood cancer, blood marrow cancer. Yeah.
And let's give him a shout out. His name is Roger Spanswick. He's a pretty awesome guy. And let's everybody out there listening, just put a little good juju out there. And of course, let's say hi to Andrew's mom, Helen.
She's suffering with my father.
Yes. And tomorrow I'm like scared, like she's going to say I didn't pronounce something the right way. I pronounced their names correctly, right?
Well, she was an English lit professor, so she's always on you.
Yes, but in a loving way. And it's just like my mom. So I'm driving down. I'm driving somewhere today. I'm driving actually to KLEAN today because we had this awesome barbecue there tonight. And I hear this commercial on. And it's one of these other quick, it's like, we used to have all these get-rich-quick schemes. You don't hear those a lot anymore. Now you hear the get-sober-quick schemes.
Yeah, that and buy gold.
Buy gold, right. Right. And so I'm listening to this thing, and it's like, having a problem with alcohol, nowhere to turn. So you're thinking they're about to say, well, go to rehab, go to 12-step group. No, there's a new pill out there that in 20 minutes, it clears all your cravings.
Right.
And...
Let's knock you out.
Right. It's finally legal in America. It was first allowed in Chernobyl and other great places that have put out good medicine. I don't know that. That's a joke. But what is this?
Well, I mean, the supplement industry is ripe with all sorts of gimmicks, and, they're not really covered by the FDA. So it's not unusual to have all sorts of supplements that will promise anything. It's unfortunate, and a lot of people suffer the consequences of taking these things that aren't really covered by the FDA.
And it's a lot of false hope. It's a lot of...
Yeah, there's a placebo effect to a lot of these things, meaning that, people will take the pill or the supposed cure, and there's, a pretty high rate of people responding to placebo in the short run. Placebo effect, meaning that they think they're getting better from the pill, but it's all psychologically based. And so there's about a 40% placebo effect on some of these things. And, they'll get a little traction, and then eventually you'll see them disappear from the market, and then they get relabeled to something else.
What's amazing you're talking about that because, every Sunday morning, HBO did an amazing special a couple of years ago on guys like Benny Hinn and all those guys you see on Sunday mornings, like you run up on stage and they hit you in the head and all of a sudden you could walk.
Right.
And that had the same sort of effect. There was a placebo effect, and then a day or two later.
Sure, the excitement of the crowd
and
a belief in something that's going to happen. Well, the body can do remarkable things for short periods of time. The problem with addiction is that it's a long-term, chronic, progressive illness, and it has to be constantly managed. So it's not something that's going to, have a cure. And we've talked about this a lot in the show, where there's been people talking about a vaccine for, say, cocaine, that you'll be able to take a vaccine and it will stop you craving cocaine.
Right.
There was a really interesting article this past week where they were talking a mixture of Suboxone and some other form of opiate as well would stop cravings for cocaine. And Dr. Koh, a psychiatrist that works with us, sent an email out saying, who would be dumb enough to buy this?
Right.
And I said, the mouse that it worked on.
But that's exactly right. And that's the sadness is they're really preying upon people's worst. What they're...
Look, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and if somebody can come up with something that stops people craving drugs and alcohol, it would be worth billions of dollars. So, it would be the new billion-dollar drug. Clearly, that drug isn't out there. What we do now is have a lot of people that say that answer is out there through some other method or means, and there's a lot of false marketing that at least I believe false marketing, where people are over-promising what can be done.
Right, we're seeing it right now with rehabs all the time. Get better in 30 days or your money back.
We're going to guarantee your treatment, and then you find out you got to do this or that, and there's all these hitches.
And it's like when you're using, you're not reading the fine print.
Right.
You can't even see the fine print.
And families get suckered into that kind of stuff. I mean, I think, some of those groups are trying to help, and they're obviously trying to get their programs to be successful. And, that's the weird line where when medicine and money meet, and marketing sometimes will outweigh people's better judgment in terms of what they're doing.
So, by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. That's Clean with a K. The show tonight is sponsored by TreatmentLine.com. Go to TreatmentLine.com if you have any questions about rehab or anything like that. I was every Sunday night at Clean, we do this barbecue, and it's pretty amazing. We have about 50 people, past and present, that are there. And I was talking. I was about to leave. I saw somebody crying. And I went up to them and I was talking to them, and they were sharing about the stuff that's going on in their life right now, about how, they don't know where their next money is going to come from. They don't know, what's going to happen when they get out. And, she asked me, and one of the other clients goes, well, ask Judy. He's been sober for 13 and a half years. And I was able to talk to her, and I'm not going to say it made her, she didn't walk away going, wow, I'm curious.
The funny thing, she just called me, and I said, yes, I would replace you with her. So he made her much happier.
There you go. And, but she was, it's a hard thing when when we talk about this, and there are people out there that are listening right now that are struggling. They might have 10 days sober. They might want to get sober. And when you're newly sober or you're thinking about getting sober, those are some of the hardest moments a person could go through, because you're looking into pure darkness.
Yeah. And I had an email earlier today that I answered in between flights. I had to stop over, and I think Texas of all places, but I was in between flights, and an email had come in from a family, and I took the time to answer the email myself. And it was about they had a son that had brain injury and was drinking, and asking for help and what to do. And it's so complicated, really, how to get people into treatment. If they're they're not legally of age anymore, or they are of age now, and you're trying to figure out, how you as a parent can intervene and get them taken care of. And then you add brain injury, where the brain's affected and people have poor impulse control, and they can't really think or do things on their own in the way that you would expect somebody would rationally. So you have the issues of addiction and a brain disorder. And our system isn't set up really easily to take care of someone like that. So I don't know what the age of this kid was, somewhere around 25 or something like that. But, the parents are looking at having to get a judicial commitment where they're going to have to go before a judge and prove that the kid's incompetent, so that they can then put the child in treatment. But still, young adult, I should say. But still, that's just the beginning. I mean, that's just the beginning of years and years of work, both, on the physical brain damage, which, could be lifelong impairment.
But it's worthwhile work.
Right. And then you have to deal with addiction on top of that. And addiction's already very difficult. Right. But you add to that brain damage with impulse control problems, and you got a hell of a problem on your hands. So, there's a lot of problems out there that need people need to talk about, and people need to get things straight. And I think there needs to be better work done at the state level to make it possible for people to take care of people that are ill. And
we're going to talk about that in a second, because we have an amazing guest in tonight. By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. That's Clean with a K. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. You might be listening to us on all over. We're on the web. We're on XM 165 and our flagship station 980 KFWB. Our guest tonight, you've seen him since basically 1986 to now. He's the star of the new show coming out Monday night on TNT. It's called Major Crimes. Let's welcome back to Clean Radio, the great Anthony John Dennison.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
And Prism Award winner, I forgot to add.
Very good.
And to people out there, by the way, that don't know what a Prism Award is, Tony's on a show called now The Closer, which has been running for 7 years on TNT, and its spinoff starts right after on, everybody out there has seen the promos. They're all over. But he won a Prism Award for his the best accurate portrayal of an alcoholic on TV.
Yeah. The episode had an alcoholic theme to it, and so they have another one that we did. And hopefully Elizabeth Perkins, who played a drunk driver, maybe she'll get a Prism Award too, because she was wonderful. She should have gotten an Emmy, but that's another thing entirely.
Politics, I tell you.
No, I don't know if it's politics. Maybe, there's so much competition, so it's hard.
But one of the things we talk a lot about on the show is the need for people getting on if the need be to people to get on antidepressants, that sometimes the 12 steps isn't always enough, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories is Tony would talk about. Am I allowed to say his last name? Or Leo S. You know, your old sponsor, Leo S.
One of my sponsors.
One of your sponsors. Can you tell the story? Because it's a pretty awesome story.
Leo was sort of like an interim sponsor. He was at a meeting once over in the valley, in the San Fernando Valley, and there was this girl who was. It was near the end of the meeting, and she was freaking out, and she said, "I need help. I need help." She goes, "Somebody, please." She goes, "My sponsor is in Europe. I can't get a hold of her, and my doctor wants to change my prescription, and it's a much stronger narcotic kind of pill. But if I don't take this pill, I feel like I'm going to kill somebody." So some idiot stands up. He goes, "My name is, Major League A-hole, and I just want to say, listen, honey, if you take those pills, I know the pills you're talking about. If you take them, then you're not sober anymore." She goes, "Oh, but I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my sobriety." So Leo, like, soon as the last word left that guy's mouth, I mean, it still had the saliva on it. Leo jumps up and he goes, "Honey," he goes, "This is Leo Sullivan, very grateful alcoholic." He goes, "Listen, honey, do me a favor. If you listen to this," he called him an a-hole. He goes, "If you listen to this a-hole and you don't take the medicine, if you want to kill somebody, kill him first before you kill me." So,
It's a great story,
we're not
but-
doctors, and it's like.
Right.
If it's under a doctor's care, I mean, hell, Bill W. took acid under Carl Jung's
phenobarbital. I think he was taking towards the end too, and
under his,
barbiturates.
and then it got to the point where some of the guys said, "Hey, you know what, Bill? I think you got to
Right.
cut it with the acid," but again, his out card was always that Carl Jung, who was a psychiatrist, had recommended it, and hey, look. I'm one of these proponents, not proponents. I'm one of these advocates of maybe that's the same thing, proponent and advocate. Is it?
I don't know, but Andrew's
No.
mother will tell us tomorrow.
Okay. Anyway, that
I think proponent means you agree with it, and advocate means you actively lobby for it.
yeah, because then both.
Yeah.
Like we live in the year 2012. Like when I go to the dentist, I want my experience to be completely pain free. So whatever they have to give me, I'm for. If I have to get Novocaine, then give me the gas first. I don't have any
You don't
qualms.
feel the needle.
I don't. I just want to. I get up because I remember when I filled out the card when I went to this one dentist who I still see. He goes, "What is your tolerance to pain? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the most."
Right.
And so I said, "Oh, how much pain can you stand between 1 and 10?" And I wrote -5,000. So
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. That's Clean with a K. The show tonight is presented by TreatmentLine.com. We're in the studio with one of the stars of the new show on TNT called Major Crimes. And I got to tell you, I saw Tony. I was at Tony's house the other day. We were cuddling. No, just joking. And he showed me the new episode of Major Crimes. If people out there don't know, Tony was on a show in the 80s called Crime Story. It was Michael Mann's show. It was right after Miami Vice. Tony was voted by Time Magazine as the second best. You and Larry Hagman
Larry
were the best
Hagman.
villains of the 1980s.
yeah.
Wow.
And I saw this. I saw this show that you showed me called Major Crimes, and it is awesome. And I'm not. We went to the rap party the other night, and this is what I was telling everybody as I was walking around. I was like, "You got to see this show. It's awesome." I'm not lying. And because in Hollywood,
only in LA do you have to
right. You have to qualify it
your
because you don't know
statement
how many times you have to say to somebody, "No, I'm being honest." It's a great show. It's really a great show. But
It's a really good. Yeah, I'm very pleased.
and so talk a little bit. But you stopped using cocaine in 1984.
I tried the sobriety route in 1984. I mean, interestingly enough, I was a newspaper editor. I was a lot of different things in my life before I fell into acting. I'd never heard AA or any of those things before in my life. Which is so bizarre when you think about it. Jack Anderson's article, I never read it. I didn't know anything about it. But in 1984, my life, I was on the express train to hell. And I think I'd already blown through hell and I was going beyond that. And so I went to meetings and stuff like that, 12-step meetings. And I came to the realization, okay, I have a problem with cocaine. I was doing $800 a day of it, so I would, any reasonable person would say, yeah, you got a problem.
Except the person using $1,600.
Or the person selling it. The
Yeah,
person
yeah.
selling it to me. Yeah, right. The person using $1,600 a day, or the person selling it to me is, no, you don't have a problem, Tony. Here, get some more.
As long as you got $900 a day, you're fine.
Right.
And it wouldn't have mattered if it was, a government-sponsored store or just my dealer on the street. It was like, yeah, you don't have a problem here. Just keep, But anyway, so I agreed to stop doing cocaine. And then 90 days later, I said, you know what, I'm okay with the alcohol. And I went back to drinking. And I realized today that the reason why I went back to drinking is I needed something to deal with, you know, the self-created misery that I was experiencing. And alcohol numbed me at this point. You know, it was interesting. I used to drink like quarts of it a day when I was doing, you know, cocaine. And then little by little, after the cocaine was out of my system, my capacity for alcohol diminished by, you know, 2/3.
Right. Well, they actually make a different drug together. When you do cocaine and drink alcohol, it becomes cocoethanol, which is a different
Are you kidding?
drug. No, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's metabolized different in your liver and has a completely different effect.
I just learned something new too.
Oh,
there
wow,
you
I
go.
didn't know that.
Is
Well,
that why
that's-
you're? Let's talk about that quickly, because a lot of people out there that drink are using cocaine too.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? Because you know, I never, you know, are you able to drink?
The two drugs mix,
Right.
and they actually combine to make a different type of drug.
And that helps you drink more.
And it's metabolized differently
Okay.
in the liver. So, yeah, and obviously cocaine's an amphetamine and alcohol's a depressant. So you offset the depressant effect with the amphetamine, and therefore you can drink a hell of a lot more.
Oh, boy, could I drink a hell of a lot more.
Yeah. And people actually get triggered highly by alcohol because it doesn't feel completely right. They're missing that little extra bit that makes it cocoethanol, and then all of a sudden that's the drug they really want, the mixture of the two.
Well,
or if they
you
just do coke, they don't feel quite right because they get jittery and they don't have that calming effect.
Well, it's 2 years. I mean, at the end, it was 2 years in a row of that sort of cocktail. And then it got to the point where the cocaine, nothing was happening. I mean, I guess I had reached the saturation point.
Right.
And, you know, I suppose the next step would have been heroin or something. I don't know. But I was always deathly afraid of needles. But I was getting to the point where I still wanted to get high. But my life was falling apart all around me. I mean, I hit that thing that they talk about, the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. But it was more of a financial pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. It wasn't a complete, total capitulation to the fact that my life, powerless over alcohol, my life had become unmanageable. And so I went like the 90 days, and then I thought, okay, fine, I can do this no drug route. And I realized how destructive it was. And, you know, I even said something, you know, I'm a college graduate, and I even said something as lame as, well, cocaine's against the law. I mean, alcohol isn't. You know,
Right.
you know, I never, you know, only recently did I, you know, 19 years ago when I got sober, that I started saying the word, you know, illegal drug.
Well,
Alcohol's a
it's
legal
amazing to me.
drug.
Like people talk about, you know, they're anti-marijuana, that marijuana is a gateway drug. I'm like, hello, tobacco, alcohol,
Right.
sugar.
Right.
You know,
It's
I
called
mean-
the Department of Alcohol. What is it? What does the ATF stand for? Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Right. There's a reason
There's
why
a reason
we
why
have
they
a
put
department
firearms with
right.
alcohol and
It's
tobacco.
not
They
like
could have a
it's-
department of
right.
sugar and
Right. It's not like the Department of
And salt.
MAFT.
Sugar and
Right.
sodium and
the
sodium.
diabetes police.
Yeah. That,
Well, I
soon
mean,
enough.
Somebody once told me that a doctor said to them, a nutritionist said, if you smoke and eat sugar products, you're better off giving up the sugar first than you are the nicotine.
Yeah, they're finding out more and more about sugar. There was a thing, I think, on 60 Minutes a week ago, and there are actually scientists that are coming out and declaring sugar toxic.
Well, I mean, look, but everything in moderation. I mean,
That's
the
if you
problem is-
can.
The problem
That's
is
if
we're,
you can.
can.
Yeah,
If you
right.
can.
We have
Right.
so much processed food now. One of the things that always used to amaze me when I lived in New Orleans, I lived in New Orleans 10 years, and people used to say, oh, you know, poor people on welfare, they're so fat. How could they possibly be so fat and have no money and whatever? And I'm like, do you know what bad food you eat if you're poor and on food
It's like, look at the
stamps?
kids in schools.
Yeah, you're eating
Yeah.
like, you know, food filled with fillers
Right.
and, you know, sugars and
you're better off eating
yeah.
a photograph of the food than the food. You know, I swear to God.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. The show is sponsored by treatmentline.com. Give us a call. It's 888-539-2980. 888-539-2980. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Dennison, star of the new show Major Crimes on TNT. It'll be on TNT this Monday night at 10 p.m. So you got sober in 1994.
Well, I stopped doing the drugs in 1984, and then in 1993, I hit the true, pitiful, and incomprehensible demoralization, where I just thought, you know, I just said, I don't ever want to feel this bad again for as long as I live. And I was still reluctant to go to meetings because I had remembered them back in '84, and I saw them as not just a crutch, but I saw them as a place where I'd have to admit failure. And, but I thought, you know what, then 90 days later, I stopped drinking, and then 90 days later, same routine again, 90 days later, I thought, okay. A good friend of mine, David, said to me, let's go to a meeting. It's been 90 days, right? And I said, yeah. And I said, I'm not. I don't want to go. And he goes, what are you afraid of? Magic words. What are you afraid of? And I remember I was like, I don't even use this word ever, but I used it. I ain't afraid of anything, like Popeye the Sailor or something. Blow me down. And he says, well, if you ain't afraid, then let's go. And I was petrified. Because I said, hi, I thought I was going to go to a place where I was going to raise my hand and say, hi, my name is Tony and I suck at life. And everybody was going to laugh at me.
Right. Yeah, I really think fear and pain are what drive addiction the most.
Oh,
those
yeah,
two
yeah.
things, and shame.
You both actually agree with you. That's, what do you always say? That's
shame and blame?
Same, yeah, but, I'm not addicted to alcohol.
I'm not addicted to alcohol. I'm addicted to fear.
Yeah. Yeah, because alcohol is the temporary fix.
And that helped me not feel less fearful.
If somebody's out there right now listening, Tony, what would be a good reason for them to call?
What would be a good reason to call? Well, obviously, if they're listening, they may be, interested in the subject matter, but I would venture to guess that there's somebody in their life, maybe themselves, who have some kind of a problem, and with alcohol or drugs. And if you want, some information that might be helpful to you or to your relatives, I think speaking with you is a plus. And plus the fact it doesn't cost them anything, and that's already a bonus.
Right. And what's our phone number, Judy? If somebody wants to call in.
888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. Give us a call. You're listening to Clean Radio Live. We're in the studio tonight with the amazingly talented Tony Dennison. I'm trying to convince him to go back to his original stage name, which is Anthony John Denison. And he's sharing in the studio tonight about, I think one of the really cool things about the reason I asked you to talk about Leo, your sponsor.
My sponsor's Marty.
Marty, but your interim sponsor at one point, Leo.
Uh-huh.
And there is this thing, right? Tony, Tony's like the softest, sweetest guy to people out there that are listening. And so is Leo, because I met him a bunch of times. But Leo is like, when you first meet him, he was one of those guys that really you'd fear meeting him, because he just was this old Irish guy, right? And when you told me the story about Leo's tolerance, and for people that are different, or that people that need help, I was like, if this 90-year-old Irish guy who looks 120 could have tolerance, how could anybody not? Like with their degrees, with their, and I look, and you're the same thing. You carry this tolerance towards people. That, listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a relationship expert, but this is my suggestion.
Yeah, look, my sponsor, my first sponsor, and my sponsor now is Marty, and you know who Marty is.
Yes, I know who Marty
is. And he's taught me immeasurable things in my life, in my sobriety, and Leo, for the short time that I was talking with him, he taught me a lot of great stuff to do. And one of them was, he used to say at the end of every phone conversation, "Be good to yourself, you deserve it." And I found myself still doing that today. There's something that I do that, it's when somebody was like, they're trying to get a break in the business, or there's suddenly interest in something they wrote, and I say, look, whatever good fortune it is, it's got to happen to somebody. Why not you?
Right.
Because there's plenty to go around. You can go down to the river of life with a thimble, or you can go down with an oil tanker. And whatever you go down with, it's never going to empty out.
And you can only get that slogan from somebody from New York.
Let's go ahead and take a call. We got some calls coming in. We got Jeff from Palms. I guess it's Palm Springs, maybe.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Welcome to Clean Radio. How are you?
Hello.
Great show. Great show.
Thank you, Jeff. Where's Palms, by the way?
Palms is National and Overland.
Oh, okay. Great pizza store over there.
Yeah.
Tony.
Yes,
I love that show, Crime Story. Do you know I can't find that anywhere. Not Hulu, not Netflix, not video.
Yeah, I think the only place you can get it, you can get it through Amazon.
Can you?
Yeah, they sell it on Amazon. They sell both years of the show.
I gotta buy it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Amazon. Yeah.
Plus, you can
Man,
call up Tony now here and ask
Yeah.
to come over. He's got all the back episodes.
We actually do. Tony and I often go to his house and we watch. We do. It's a great show. And Jeff, maybe if you call a few more times, you'll be welcome to come too.
Well, you watch. I don't watch.
Yeah.
They're indelibly etched in my mind. And
You're not like Prince, who plays his own music in the background all the time. You don't
No,
know.
I mean the artist formerly known as Prince.
Yeah.
But Jeff, so you've been clean since the 4th of July, 1995.
Correct. I was homeless for 2 years before that, living in Spanish Harlem.
Oh,
Spanish Harlem. That's where I'm from.
125th and the FDR.
That's where I'm from.
I went to high school in 186th in Amsterdam.
I'm at
Jeff.
107th and 3rd.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
And I'm from England.
Andrew's from England via Ithaca, New York.
Yeah,
Or the
other way
reverse,
around.
Yeah.
Great. The best meetings.
Yeah.
I absolutely got clean. Doing the 90 meetings in 90 days. It literally saved my life. I mean that, and 3 open heart surgeries later.
Yeah.
And now I'm waiting for a liver transplant.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Oh,
I
goodness.
feel absolutely so blessed for being clean today because
Is that an
I
effect?
lost a lot of friends to HIV
Jeff, is
and other things, and I was definitely on my way out till I got clean.
And Jeff, is the liver, so people out there, is the liver, is that an effect of the using of the heroin, or?
Yeah, it was. I would imagine. I mean, I have Hep C, so I would imagine it was the heroin or sharing needles. One of the two things.
And when's your
Although
surgery?
My friend had it, and we shared needles all the time.
Jeff, can I put you on hold for a second? We have to go out for a commercial break, but I want to finish this call with you and come right back. Is that okay?
Great.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Hang on. This is Clean Radio. We'll be back in a few minutes, and give out the number one more time.
The number is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. You're listening to CleanRadio.com. The discussion continues at CleanRadio.com. We're in the studio tonight with the amazing Anthony John Dennison. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.
Welcome back to Clean Radio. Tonight's show is sponsored by TreatmentLine.com. I'd like to welcome back all our listeners out there. Go like us on Facebook at Facebook/Clean Radio. We're in the studio tonight with the amazingly talented Tony Dennison, star of the new show Major Crimes on TNT. It starts Monday night at 10. But let's get back to Jeff, who we have on line one. Go for it, Andrew.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for waiting through the break.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
So you're
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, and maybe even listening right now that think that you have it under control and that it's not really interfering with your lifestyle. I mean, like I say, I was living beside the FDR under an overpass, and I still figure, well, hey man, I still have it going on. I've got my life under control. I just choose not to have a home. I spend the money on rent.
This is great, by the way, that we hear the ambulance behind you.
they're coming for him.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like that. I understand heroin. That was my drug of choice, and it's got more physical hold over people than like cocaine or marijuana or alcohol.
How did you stop? That's what, Jeff. How did you stop?
They're all bad.
Well, I think, he's describing also, let me just say, he's describing the difference between physical addiction and then and psychological addiction.
Is heroin the most physically addictive drug?
Well, there's a lot of drugs, obviously, within the opiate class that are...
Not. Supposedly it's like Tuinals, pills.
Right,
methadone is a little more physically addicting.
Right, and these are all different forms and classes of opiates.
All pretty much in the same line.
Yeah, the real problem is...
It seems harder to kick pills than it does heroin.
Yeah, the real problem with physical addiction versus psychological addiction is that for a long time people believed that drugs that were psychologically addicting weren't really addicting. So you got, one of the most physically addicting drugs is tobacco. You see people try to quit.
I disagree.
Yeah, only from a smoker.
Yeah.
Right? So, but the psychological addiction has now taken on new credibility with research. We now are able to do CAT scans and MRIs and see actual physical changes in the brain from drugs that we thought were only psychologically addicting. And
Like marijuana.
And what the difference was that the withdrawal effect from opiates like heroin is so dramatic that people saw that as fully physically addicting. And what we're finding out now is drugs that we thought were only psychologically addicting have a real physiological or actual physical effect on the brain that makes them the equivalent of being physically addicting.
Jeff, how did you get, how did you get sober?
Well, I'll tell you, I was in my tent. It was the day after Thanksgiving, '94. I was in my tent.
The reason I'm laughing is because I have this visual. I went to high school in Washington Heights, and I know exactly where you're talking about. All of it, off the side of the FDR you're referring to, or
FDR and,
Yeah.
and 125th,
Yeah.
the top corner of Spanish Harlem.
yeah. I used to take the Harlem River Drive. Nobody's interested in out there how I got to high school every day, but yeah. So go on.
Well, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, it felt like I was having a heart attack, like somebody was literally standing on my chest. I could not breathe. And I was really fortunate because the construction crew was working probably 3 blocks down the street, and I literally had to crawl on my hands and knees to get there. It took me about 20 minutes, and somebody called an ambulance, and they took me over to Mount Sinai. And like I say, I thought I was having a heart attack. It turned out I had endocarditis, which is a bacterial growth on your heart due to infections from either dirty water or the drugs, something to do with related to getting high.
And that's a lot of things that people don't realize.
I was fortunate. They took me in. Unfortunately, they tried to treat me with antibiotics for 6 months. I was in Mount Sinai because they figured if they just gave me the open heart surgery, I'd go right back out and get high again. So they were unsuccessful. And then I had my open heart surgery. My first, what turned out to be 3. And it sounds funny, but that saved my life. And that got me clean. I ended up coming out and getting high one more time. And then after that, that was it. I went to meetings and never got high again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you're thinking that, meetings won't work, or, you're ashamed, or you don't want to do it, just bring yourself in. Give it a try. I mean, you have your whole life ahead of you.
That's really, really inspirational, Jeff. I really want to thank you for calling in, and hopefully you keep listening. And we have some other people we want to talk to, but we would love to have you call back again and keep sharing your story of hope.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. The number is
Nice talking with you, Jeff.
Yeah, by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio Live. That's KLEAN with a K. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Dennison. Tony, who I'm very... who, if you heard a ringer behind you, that was Tony's phone. He's very important. And his new show, Major Crimes.
He's trading stocks in Asia.
We call him Dr. Dennison on the side because
it opened up in Japan already.
Because Tony is looking at the Nikkei index as we speak.
Right.
So, Tony, your new show is coming out Sunday night?
Monday night.
Monday night.
It's called Major Crimes. And TNT is doing something unusual, which hasn't been done before. The show itself hasn't. This is really not like a spin-off. It's like a continuation. But the last episode of The Closer airs in its regular time slot at 9 o'clock on Monday night. And then right after Station Identification or whatever that commercial might be, it opens up immediately into Major Crimes. So the song, plays on, or the band plays on, and after her character, after Brenda Lee Johnson leaves the show, it goes right into the new series. And then the following week, we will go to the 9 o'clock spot, which was formerly occupied by The Closer.
And so you play a sober guy on the show.
Yes, my character is sober, less time than I am, and I just sort of suggested it one time because John Tenney's character, Fritz Howard, the special FBI agent, it was always written in that he was sober, and so one day I was talking to James Duff, who's the executive producer and a good friend, and I said, alcoholism runs rampant in the police department, the fire department, a lot of these, the FBI, you name it, this military. I said it would be sort of like, in keeping with the spirit of what's going on, that there would be at least one cop on the show who would be, sober,
at least one,
or even so struggling with the alcoholism,
Right.
and or not. And he thought about it, and he said, "You know what? Let's go with it." So that's how come it happened. So I have this ring that I wear, which is a triangle inside a circle, and I got it when I was 1 year sober, and so I don't have to take it off. I can keep it on while I'm playing the character.
That's good.
It's my touchstone.
Yeah.
I call it my touchstone.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Dennison. Give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. You're talking about cocaine. Andrew, there used to be a thing, right, in the 80s where people didn't believe it was addictive?
Well,
kidding?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
people, when a lot of drugs first come out, people think it's the new drug and it's not dangerous. And yeah, for a long time, people thought
I
that
guess
cocaine
so.
was like, something that you could do easily and it wasn't a problem. It takes a while sometimes for, same thing with meth. Meth came back with a storm, and people in rural communities, the education and the public information for public health perspective is very low, and people just get caught up in stuff. And, people that are just using and want to get people to use so they can support their habit will tell people, hey, try this, it's great, it's safe. And next thing you know, people are addicted to something. So it's very common. We actually have another call. Let's go straight to it. We got Judy from Florida. Judy, welcome to Clean Radio.
Hi.
This is 3 weeks in a row,
This
Judy.
is 3 week Judy. Yeah.
2 weeks in a row, and this is probably the best week I've had. I just want to let you guys know that you've been so helpful.
Okay, let's just. Judy has been to people out there that are just tuning into Clean Radio. Judy has been smoking marijuana for the better part of 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
Stop me if I'm wrong. You drink sometimes too, excessively.
I do drink sometimes. Mm-hmm.
Right. Life's a mess recently. In some
Life has been a mess recently, just job change and just rock bottom, essentially. I've hit rock bottom for the first time in my life.
And so what's going on now? So last week, after last week's show, you said you were going to try to do a couple days without smoking.
I'm going to try to do 7 days again. I know you guys have been challenging me to go 7 days, and I made it until Tuesday. And what happened was I had an idea. I created an art project, and the art project is called What Is Your Vice? And I was trying to go through, like, gambling and marijuana and coke and just basically create this table. And I found an old water pipe, and that old water pipe happened to have a hit of weed in it. So I hit that pipe on Tuesday. So I did relapse on Tuesday. But I've been clean since Tuesday.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great.
Well, thank you. But the hard part is that I wanted to just confront my parents and come clean with my parents that I do have a problem. And I did confront them on Friday. And the issue now is that my mother, who's my best friend, really doesn't think that I have a problem at all. She thinks that I just use it as a crutch. She's like, you're 37 years old, you need to get your act together. Basically, I found out in that conversation that she doesn't mind smoking marijuana occasionally either.
Well, you answered the question I was going to ask. But do you guys ever smoke together?
No, I would never even want to smoke with my mother. No.
I'm sorry, Judy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that
No,
funny.
I would have that same reaction if somebody asked me that question. But so, So here's the question that I have for you, and Andrew, this goes to you too. You hear this a lot. People say, "Oh, it's a crutch," and usually you hear it a lot when people are getting sober and they're going to meetings. You hear people saying, "Oh, that 12 steps is a crutch."
Well, I don't think that that's necessarily wrong. I mean, to some degree, it is a crutch. A crutch symbolizes something. Yeah, if you got a broken leg, and you got to get around. You need a crutch to get around.
Nobody ever says to you, ever notice that? Right.
The underlying implication, though, is that a crutch is a moral, you have some sort of moral failure, and that, you're using this to supplement what should be already existing in you naturally. And that, you just need to, get a stiff upper lip and hang in there and just
pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, just, and not understanding actually what you're suffering with. And one of the things I like to talk to parents about, and people that are dealing with people that are addicted, is that, who would want to come out and tell their mother that they've been going through this long struggle and problem with the drug, unless it was so painful and so damaging to them that they were asking for help.
Exactly. It was so painful. Like, I would say my boyfriend is right here. He's my biggest support. And I would say probably, Monday, Tuesday was my rock bottom, like crying all day. How am I going to tell my mother? This is so embarrassing. She's going to be so ashamed. And, I mean, it was the complete opposite of that. But at the same time, it wasn't the response that I needed.
Well, it's funny.
Either. I just feel like she doesn't understand that I really do. Like, I still have cravings. I have been doing well, but I do, like Friday night when I met them, it probably wasn't the best environment because my mother says, "Okay, come meet us," but it was at a bar, Blue Martini. I don't know if you got those out in California, but it was a bar, and we were drinking, and it probably wasn't the best environment, but it was the only chance that I feel I could see her and tell her.
Right. I don't know. This
doesn't matter the name of the bar. I mean, if it was called the Crap Hole, and there was booze, I'd go.
I mean, Tony, this sounds a lot like sort of what you were talking about earlier about shame and dealing with, having to confront your fear about people saying, "Hey, you don't have a problem," or "Hey,
you're a loser.
You're a loser. What's wrong with you? I can smoke pot." So what would you recommend saying to Judy? Like,
well, the one thing I'd say to Judy before, when you'd said that you'd stopped Tuesday, and Judah had said, that's really great, fantastic, and you were like, well, yeah, okay, thank you, as if you were trying to diminish the fact that you hadn't done any drugs in 5 days, and it doesn't matter if you hadn't done a drug in 1 day. The whole thing about all of the 12-step programs, which they all come from the father program or the grandfather program
or the mother program
which is AA.
Yeah,
is about
I'm not familiar with the 12-step at all.
Well, anyway, what they say in the meetings is that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So in your case, you obviously have a desire to stop using.
But if you're calling a radio show for 3 weeks saying that that's a desire, and I'm saying that, Judy, I say that with all the sincerity in my heart, is that you're like at this point, and we talk about this a lot. It's like where it's not working anymore, really. Where you want to get high and you don't want to get high, but you're like in this like purgatory. Because neither is going well.
Right. I think it's important to note, Judy, that you're in a window right now, and people that are addicted to substances have momentary windows, and sometimes they can last hours, sometimes they can last a few weeks, sometimes maybe a couple months, but eventually people sort of get tired if they don't get the help they need, and they immediately go back into using, and that they can go on another binge for like 3-4 years. And I think that's the danger that I sort of hear in what you're talking about. You've said you've tried to stop smoking, you're having some success, but you're not really getting the support you need from your family
and drinking
or friends.
A little bit.
And then I heard that you're drinking, and drinking is definitely a trigger for smoking pot again. And the effects of alcohol could easily replace what you've used marijuana for. So, that's, sobriety is about figuring all that out, not just not using a substance, but trying to figure out what's the underlying problems that are driving you to use that substance to numb yourself and not feel pain.
If you can, before you light up again, if you do light up again, just ask yourself the question whether, just right before you do it, say, is this trip absolutely necessary? And no, seriously, just say, is this trip absolutely necessary, to Gaga land? And if it is, or, we ask yourself that question and then say, are there any consequences that I might face as a result of this? And am I willing to face them? And if you can get through those questions, then smoke away.
Judy, I know part of you also wanted to go to rehab. Has changed or stopped from you wanting to go and get help?
Nothing has changed. I know that Andrew made a good point last week. It's like, how about the money that you're spending in weed? Instead, you get some health insurance and address your medical issues, which are mainly anxiety, and I know I'm OCD and I'm ADD. And marijuana has the opposite effect on me. It actually calms me down instead of creates more anxiety. So I think that, Andrew really hit it last week. Judy, you really hit it last week. And I think what I need is just to address it medically. I think maybe outpatient rehab would get it. What's just so frustrating is that I feel that my mother doesn't understand that I really do have an issue with it.
Right.
And
Well, one thing you could start doing is you could stop, I think, if you can, stop saying that it does some kind of therapeutic good thing for you, like saying, well, it doesn't ramp me up, it calms me down. It doesn't do any of those things.
By the way, you're listening to Clean Radio Live.
It's not something to calm you down. You have the illusion that you're being calmed down, but it's not. I mean, I used to think that, when I drank, it would settle my day and it would help me to relax, and it didn't.
Right. That's the thing about drugs and alcohol is that, in the end, especially what I was referring to, Judy, is that in the beginning when you smoke pot, you drink, you do stuff, there is a certain, obviously it's fun.
Right.
It's fun but eventually when you cross over into that addiction point, and Andrew could talk about that a little bit more, is that it stops working.
Well, Judy, we actually have other calls. I do want to make one last point real quick, and I would like you to call again next week, Judy. But the last point I just want to make is that, you don't need your mother's validation to get help. You need to seek the strength within yourself. And in some ways, seeking outside validation that you have a problem and looking for that outside support to fix you is part of the problem.
And Lord knows Andrew and I both know this.
Yeah, you really need to sort of own it yourself and say, no matter what my mom thinks, no matter, my boyfriend's great, there's one, positive, but it's got to come from you. You have to make the decision that this is something that you want to do for yourself.
I'll tell you what, Judy, you're gonna call back next week. I want you to do us one favor here before next week. You ready? And I know your boyfriend, you said, is sitting next to you. Go to a 12-step meeting.
he'll go with me.
Okay, so you promise?
I promise we'll go. He does not have his kids next week, and we'll go next week.
Okay, and you'll call us up and you'll tell us how it went.
Well, I'm kind of nervous and don't know what to expect, but I'm going to go. I'm going to check out some meetings that we have here in the area. You guys are so awesome. This is the cleanest I've been in like 3 years.
And that's clean with a K.
Amazing. You've been so helpful.
You're going to go into a room. You're going to be in a room. The people in there are going to feel and sound and think exactly like you do.
And you're going to hate them. No.
Let's jump to another call.
Yeah.
We got
Judy, we'll talk to you later.
We got Harold from Hollywood, who we spoke to last week, who had called after Judy.
And he promised he'd call back at the same exact time.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Hey, Harold, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready.
Wow, you sound like a different person.
I feel like a different
Well, let's go back again. A week ago, Harold called up. He was smoking a little too much.
Sounded a little drunk,
yes,
maybe.
Smoking a little too much pot. You had a job interview on Monday, or?
No. I had a job, but
okay.
Basically, I wasn't making near my earning potential because I was avoiding drug tests, like I imagine a lot of people are. So I've just made a decision last week. I've been listening to you guys for about 2 or 3 weeks now. I've just called in and made a commitment, and I stuck with it. Like, it was tough. It was really, really tough. Like, anxiety. I had issues sleeping. I didn't catch an appetite till Thursday, but I made it through it. It would have been easier to smoke, but I made it through it. It was really
congratulations.
Yeah, congrats, Harold. That's awesome.
How are you feeling about that?
Oh, I feel like a new person. And really, like I told you, I really didn't have a support system because a lot of people I know smoke marijuana, but everybody was really supportive. Once they told them I made a decision that I was stopping, it was no pressure at all. It was just everybody was really happy for me, and it's really good. It was so tough until about Wednesday or Thursday. Like I'm telling you, just anxiety and just it's just so ingrained. It's so habitual. You know what I'm saying? That
Absolutely.
But I made it through it.
And you know what I love,
say.
Harold? You know what I love about your call right now is that if somebody just tuned in like 30 seconds ago, they would have thought you were talking about, because we always think of marijuana as not this dangerous or not this bad, and they would have thought, oh, you're talking about heroin, but you're talking about marijuana and the effects that it had on you.
Well, now I do want to get you guys' take on this because while I have to completely stop smoking marijuana, I'm still smoking cigarettes and I'm having a beer when I get off work, maybe 2, but no more than that. And I want to know, how is that? Like, should I taper down as the time goes on, or is that healthy, or
Harold, I think that one of the things that I noticed right away from your conversation, one is that you sound so much better. So obviously, not smoking marijuana is an amazing difference for you. Anxiety is pretty normal, and not being able to sleep when you stop using drugs that's a pretty common symptoms. And when people come to our rehab, that's one of the first things we treat people with is during detox is give them something that's non-narcotic that makes it possible for them to sleep. But what I have to say is that, you're mentioning anxiety being a presenting problem and sleep being a presenting problem. Alcohol is one of the most commonly used substances to self-medicate anxiety. And more people end up having a problem with alcoholism because they have a problem with anxiety than any other single reason. Probably depression is right along there with depression and anxiety.
Well,
so,
I was listening earlier, and I don't. The guy from the Major Crimes,
Tony.
Yeah, Tony.
He said something that was very interesting. He was using alcohol to kind of cope with his self-induced misery,
His fear.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's part of it, or if I just need something to kind of take the edge off to look forward to when I get home, or what exactly what. But it just feels so good.
You just said it. You wanted something to take the edge off. And previously, you used to do pot or marijuana to take the edge off. That's gone now, so you still have the edge. And that edge is based on fear. It's like when I said self-induced misery, it's basically just, my filling up with fear, feeling so incredibly uncomfortable, and thinking.
And that's what anxiety is. Anxiety is fear. It's
right.
Some of it's subconscious, and some of it why you feel that way. But a lot of it's subconscious, and it comes across as anxiety and fear. That's
what my sponsor, Marty, talks about all the time. I mean, it's basically, for me, it's an everyday. I don't want to say struggle, because it becomes easier sometimes to deal with it, but because I know how to deal with it. It's just how quickly I get around to it. It's a constant contest between faith in what my program is all about and all the stuff that I've learned, the spirituality of it, and fear. And it's constant. It's ongoing for the rest of my life, and that's okay. I'm up for the challenge. I can do it.
And just like the challenge, Harold, that you were talking about, the first 4 or 5 days without marijuana, maybe it is a good time, since you're feeling great, and like Andrew said, you sound great, maybe do try a 12-step meeting. What's the worst thing that could happen is that you don't like it. But you might meet people there that are sharing the same things that are going on in your life right now.
Well, I think kind of staying away from the 12-step, that was a big motivating factor, because it was like, if I can't do this, then I really have a problem. It's bigger than I thought. You know what I'm saying? And,
right.
I just took on the role of the Marvel man, and I kind of embraced it, as you guys said last week, and we're just going to get through it.
Okay.
We got to get through it. We're going to get through it, and I feel great, man.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Harold, we got to run, but give us a call next week and let us know. I mean, I really so appreciate you calling in and letting us know how it's going, and you're helping a lot of people out there right now by the courage that it takes for you to call in and talk to us about this.
I really appreciate you guys. I don't know if I would have been able to do it this week without knowing that it was a support system out there, even if I didn't know. And I really appreciate Clean Radio with a K and what you guys are doing. And this is a 100% real call. I'm a real person, and I love you guys, man.
Right back at you. So we'll hear from you next week, Harold?
Definitely.
Okay, cool. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye, Harold.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. We are running out of time. We're in the studio tonight with the awesomeness that is Anthony John Denison, star of everything. And your new show is coming out this week called Major Crimes.
Monday night at 10 o'clock.
Monday
on
night,
TNT.
following the final episode of The Closer.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew and I actually will be cuddling together. Sorry, Tony. And watching.
I have homemade popcorn.
Okay, I'll be cuddling with you. You sold. Andrew didn't offer any food, and
I ate it all already.
yeah, that's true. So you're gonna be. So thank you so much for coming in tonight, Tony.
Thank you.
Give us
Thank you for
Give us a
having me.
parting. Give us one parting shot.
Well, there's so many things I could say, but I'll just say this: that the success in my life is a direct result of my sobriety. Because before that, my life was a mess. So, maybe I would have had a successful acting career, but it didn't seem like it was going to happen that way until I got completely sober.
That's great.
And it is. It's because a lot of people out there that are listening, going, oh, well, why should I give up? What's the hope? The hope is, I'm not saying you're going to be on TV in Major Crimes, but the hope is that if you actually want to be, getting sober is the only way you're gonna.
Now, just like we're just heading out here, but I'd like to thank all our fans. Our Facebook has been exploding. We've been going through the roof with likes. Really appreciate everybody who takes the time to go there to facebook.com/cleanradio and just like us. And also check out our webpage, cleanradio.com. And we will be back next week again on Sunday at 8 o'clock.
The discussion continues at cleanradio.com. Listen to us, like us. We have a great guest next week. Yeah.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.